I want to remind you, Sean, but maybe it'll be an open secret. Do you remember the first time we met? Was at an event. It was at a conference. It was at the Under 30 Summit, and what I knew was you were about to go up in front of 1,500 super achievers under 30, huge audience filled Pennsylvania Convention Center. But what I didn't know is you'd received a call about an hour or two before, saying, asking or telling you that you were being removed.
Not
as the CEO of Tinder. So
I think not exactly. I think there was a lot of discussion, and there was some discussion.
So the conversation started about maybe you not being the CEO of Tinder.
No, there was discussion before. I think it just it started to materialize. But I think it's a positive transition. I'm a lot happier right now.
I'm impressed. So we're here in the IAC building, which, by the way,
great building.
Looking at kind of what what Tinder's enterprise value is, I could argue this should be the Tinder building. But here you are, and the question is, usually when a founder, is pushed out or asked to leave or however you want to phrase it, usually the founder leaves. But here you are, not only still at Tinder, but you're here at the mothership talking to us. So
well, I think it's miscategorized. It's not categorizing it accurately to say it's pushed out. So Tinder's growing. It's a fast-growing company, and along the way, I think there are things that I haven't experienced as a young CEO, and at certain places you want to bring in somebody who's sort of seen more to help us grow into the future, and I was feeling the pressure, and then we brought in somebody, Chris Payne, who's fantastic. We get along so well, and
he came from eBay, right?
He came from eBay, and it's a great relationship because I get to focus on the things that I love, and he's there to sort of fill in the blanks and help guide the ship and help us in the areas that I otherwise am less interested in or have less experience.
So that's interesting. So how does that work? How do you, still being part of this as the founder, interview a CEO, and how between all the candidates? I mean, I'm sure a lot of them were looking at you and saying, "Is this like a Google Eric Schmidt situation, or is this a Scully Steve Jobs situation?" How did that process? How does a founder who was CEO basically interview his replacement?
Well, because first and foremost, it's about Tinder. It's about what's best for Tinder, and I think I have a very intimate sense of what's good for Tinder, having been there for so long and having started it, and also who would be a great fit to be the CEO, having been in that position. And I think
so when you guys were dating,
it felt right. It felt right with Chris.
And so tell us. So what are you exactly doing now? What's your role?
So I'm focusing all my energy into product and marketing. And product touches a lot of other areas of the company, and I work side by side with Chris as far as setting strategy with the board and whatnot, and Chris is sort of helping us scale as an organization, and there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do, and it's funny because when Chris came in, we had this wonderful sort of offsite with all the executives and coming up to speed, and I felt this relief because I was like, yes, I don't have to do all this on my own. So it was actually very liberating.
Update us on the metrics. Like when we did the cover story 6 months ago, you were at, I think, 30 million registered users. Where are you guys now?
Can't say.
More than 30 million?
Way more than that.
Okay. I think we had you at 6 months ago. You were doing 1.2 billion swipes a day.
Yeah. Now it's a bit more, and we're growing on a variety of fronts. So number one, we've been focusing a lot of our energy on increasing the quality of a match. So that means better algorithms to do a better job of placing you with people that you'd have some commonalities with. That also means...
So in other words, the stream of photos you're getting is not being randomly generated. It's being generated.
There's a little more intelligence, and that's going to be a lifetime battle, right? There's going to be tons of learnings that we're going to constantly bring into the algorithm, and then we've made some changes to the ecosystem with respect to the number of right swipes that somebody has in a given day. We've limited that just so we can get people to be a little more thoughtful.
So people get the limo. Right swipes are the accepted, I want to match with this person,
so,
opposed to the left swipe, which
we've
dreaded left swipe. So.
We've limited that to get people to be a little more thoughtful in their right swipes. And then we've done a lot of things along the way, and we've optimized sort of our platform, and there's all the sort of knobs behind the scene that nobody sees. And the result has been amazing. We've increased the average messages shared within a conversation by over 20% over the last few months. We've also innovated on the platform, and we've launched Instagram and different things that help you understand the person better and get to know them better and have more things to talk about.
Yeah, you've launched an ad product too.
And then the third thing we've done is we've expanded on our revenue ambitions, which is going great as well.
And so what's the model behind advertising on Tinder? What's the strategy?
So, we have two products right now around revenue. We have two initiatives. One is a subscription business, which is all about offering some superpowers to our users for a monthly fee. These are things that you don't want everyone to have, because if everyone had them, A, they would not be special, and in some cases they would be bad for the ecosystem. If everyone can change the location freely, then you'd kind of devalue where Tinder says you are is actually not as valuable, and so there's that set of services that we want to offer at a monthly fee, which is and that business is doing pretty well. We're very happy with the results, and then we're experimenting with other revenue models. One of them being advertising, and we've worked with brands over the last 2 years, but they've always been in some form of cross-promotional capacity. It's never been about allowing them to sort of reach our audience in a more programmatic way, and now you got an ad unit that allows an advertiser to sort of speak to our audience on a mass scale.
Give us an example, like who's one of your advertisers, and how are they using Tinder? It seems like a very unconventional way to advertise.
So we've worked with, in the past, we've worked with partners. These are not advertisers, like USA Networks, and Jason Derulo just launched an album on Tinder. And then we're working with advertisers like Budweiser and Orbitz and a few others in the pipeline. And what we're offering on the advertiser side is the ability to promote your branded profile and card to the top of the stack. And instead of appearing with just photos, appearing in a little more exclusive way with video, and having your sort of having a video ad in the ecosystem. And what's cool about that, actually, so a right swipe and a left swipe means something with respect to people discovery. And the way we built this product on the ad side was that if you swipe right, we're collecting that data, and we want to reuse it to surface up better ads in the future. And we never told that to our users, but somehow people just intuitively figured that out. And the right to left swipe ratio actually started forming meaning, both with sort of doing a better job of targeting into the future and talking to advertisers. But when you look at sort of our user communities, user feedback, and App Store ratings, people seem to understand the nuances, which was, I think, pretty awesome.
It's interesting because Tinder obviously is kind of redefining how sex and dating work, but it really is about the technology, and that the idea that it's Tinder. I actually Googled Tinder of before we came out here, and this was just on the first page of Google. Tinder, let's see, we got on the first page, the Tinder of real estate, the Tinder of world peace.
Yeah.
There's a Tinder of job search ads, there's a Tinder of shopping, there's a Tinder of cuddles.
Tinder of Tinder.
That is. There's a Tinder of weed on the first page of Tinder, of Google, when you do Tinder of. So I'm curious, I mean, what you have is less of a dating and a matchmaking platform, but you have a technology. What in the future is Tinder going to be the Tinder of?
The Tinder of all the Tinders. So I think at the core, what we are doing and what we think about every day is how do we make it easy for two people to meet? We want to remove all the barriers. Part of why we started Tinder was, if I want to meet somebody in a restaurant, they're at the table with their friends, it would be pretty awkward if I walked up to them. I might get rejected. And Tinder removes all those barriers. And we're doing that right now within the confines of dating very well, although people are using Tinder to make other kinds of matches. And as we look into the future, I think it's going to be about finding new ways to connect people. The swipe has provided a great way to interface with the content that we have, which is our audience, but there's other ways, and we're constantly exploring them. So I think what you'll see from us is other modes of connection and communication.
You've had an interesting seat in that. I mean, you guys obviously had a very, high-profile sexual harassment suit. It was about a year ago. There's been so much talk about the misogynistic culture in Silicon Valley and tech startups. In the last year? I mean, you obviously have been paying very close attention to this. Have you seen any change in the quote-unquote bro culture of startups over the last?
I'm like in my little cave in Los Angeles, so I don't get too much interaction with my peers. But there's a lot of dialogue about it, which I think is a great thing, and I think is an important start. I've participated in more private dialogues with other CEOs. On my part, I'm just more broadly trying to understand what the issues are, and when it comes to Tinder, we're just doing our part to sort of be a good culture and good environment for everyone.
You talk about being in a cage in Los Angeles. What's it like? I mean, you've got your mothership here in New York. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Valley is where so much of the action is. You're in LA. Is that a benefit? Is it a hindrance?
I think it in some ways it's a benefit. So being in Los Angeles, outside of a bubble, you're more in tune with your users, your customers. You walk out when we go get coffee, and you're sort of confronted by a diverse group of people. It's not the same people that think about tech, and that forces you to sort of to have a better, deeper understanding of who you're building for, and from an organizational standpoint, being in LA has its advantages in the sense that there's not a lot of competition for talent. But at a certain point,
Snapchat would disagree, but
well, I mean, there's still not as much as NorCal.
Absolutely.
But at a certain point, it sucks because as you grow and become the size of Tinder, you need some specialized talent, and that specialized talent exists in certain pockets of communities around the world. So I think it becomes more challenging as you grow to recruit great people.
I don't want to. They asked me to take some questions. I don't want to hog all the discussion. We probably have time for maybe one question. Does anybody have a question for Sean Rad? I've got plenty, but pick your poison. Anybody? I want to know what. Oh, okay, there we go.
So, representing fashion here, Bliss.
Hi.
Fashion. One thing that my industry is fascinated about in Tinder is how you came to that UI, to that UX.
Yep.
The move that you created has inspired
Thank you.
industry. So what was the breakthrough for that, to communicate that way with a swipe? What's the story of the swipe?
So initially, the initial designs of Tinder, it was a stack of people and a button to click an X and a heart. And my brilliant co-founder John one day realized that what can you usually do with stacks of items is you can pick them up and you can place them in different stacks. And he sort of had this vision of this skeuomorphic idea of me grabbing something and throwing it, and then he implemented the swipe and didn't even tell anyone. It was actually, the funny thing is I had no idea we had swiping until about 3 weeks after he put it into the app because he didn't tell us. And then one day I was like playing with him, like, wait, I can do that. And it launched a cultural phenomenon. So I think I can't see, but it was like a lot of great inventions. It was partly a product of it was sort of this iterative process to get there, and then also it was almost accidental, which tends to happen that way sometimes.
About a minute left. Anybody else? Right up here.
So I just finished college, and Tinder has had insane growth in colleges, and I was wondering what you thought made that happen with like that demographic where other dating sites failed.
So I think at its core, there's two things. One is Tinder sort of puts power back into people's hands as far as who gets to communicate with them. And I think at its core, it's solving a different problem. So it's solving the problem that if I want to meet somebody, I don't want to walk up to them and feel like I get rejected. On other platforms, that sense of rejection exists. I can message you and get rejected. There's no pre-qualifying of that relationship. So fundamentally what Tinder changed is it solved the problem of introductions, not necessarily the problem of relationships, which is what a lot of these other platforms were solving. The second thing is it's fun. It's just it's like a game. And I think people signing up, even now, when they enter the platform, they're there for the fun of swiping and digesting content and sort of people watching, and then they like to see if they can get any matches as kind of this ego boost. Like on Instagram, you get a like and you feel good about yourself. And then that ends up morphing into something a lot deeper, and you build this real connection. So it's almost like this amazing value disguised in this fun game. Which I think invites people to it.
It's interesting because when we did the story, a lot of people came, a lot of people who hadn't heard of it said, why is this thing so hot? How is it expanding so fast? And I think the fact that you hit social, the fact that you are hitting location-based, you're hitting gamification, and you're hitting messaging. So that's like the big four. So congrats on hitting the bullseye. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And are you sticking around for?
Yes.
All right, he's around. So come see Sean Rabbit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.